Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you a nice little review of the Denix M3 grease gun. Right guys, so let's start with a quick overview of what we've got here. So the Denix M3 grease gun is one of their newer models. So if I pull it up to the light for you, hopefully you can get a decent image of that. It's a bit difficult to get it in the light properly because it's so bright in here and this is quite shiny. So before I start covering bits of this really, I'm going to go over the main downside of this thing, which is the colour and the metal that it's made out of. Now as you can see, this is very dark, it's basically black, and it's also very shiny. So that is the one thing that they've really got wrong with this, so we'll just get that out of the way right at the start. An actual grease gun, I've never seen one of them remotely this dark. They're either normally like a really light gunmetal grey or sort of parkerized sort of finish looking to them. Never seen one like this. So that's the big fault that Denix have done here, is the colour of it, but that tends to be their trait through most of their replicas. So now that's out of the way, let's cover the rest of it. Right guys, for the most part Denix have done a really good job with this. Their later items they've come out with, like this and the MG34 that came out recently, have definitely gone up in quality from their earlier things, like their Thompson, which for example, which is dreadful. So here on the grease gun you've got a lot of nice details. First of all, the weight of it is actually pretty close to a real one. I've handled a few real ones and this is pretty good, so I think they've done a really good job with the weight. If you move down to the bottom, the magazine is removable like it always is. If I put the gun down for a bit, you can see you've got a nice replica magazine there. It doesn't have a spring or a follower or anything inside it, but what I've found, and what you can see there if I put it like this, if you wad just tissue or something into it and make it right tight, you can then put rounds into this and the pressure will actually keep them in, and you can put this into the gun with some rounds in it to make it just look a bit more genuine for people. So that clips in nicely like so. Right guys, so let's go over the features of the gun itself. We'll start at the back end. You've got the collapsible stock, just like the real one. Push the button and that will come out. It's a nice sturdy little stock. You can give it a little bit of abuse. If you want to, you can remove it all the way like the real one. Now you just pop it back in, push the button down, and that'll go back in. So they've done a nice job of the stock there. Moving forwards from the stock, you've got your iron sights at the front and back. Very, very simple. Very much like the real ones. They were hardly a feat of engineering. I'd say if anything the aperture on this is actually too small, but it's not too bad looking. The trigger will release the bolt if you have it cocked back, so if you have the cover up, you have it charged, you pull the trigger and that will represent the action of the bolt going forwards. Now safety wise on these, in real life the flap would be closed and that would be your safety. But in the Denix, if I pull it back and close it, you can see that the dust cover here doesn't actually have enough tension on it to keep the bolt back. If I cock it again and close it and have my thumb over it, that won't fire. But then when you undo it, that'll go forwards. So not perfect there, but pretty good. So you got the trigger, you got the cover that sort of acts like a safety, but not really. You got the nice reproduction bolt here, which you can cock by your finger or you can cock with the charging handle. Obviously this is an M3, the M3A1 later ones didn't have the charging handle, so that's one of the features that they did get right. You have got a couple of things that are incorrect, like the screw here, that shouldn't be a screw, and if I spin it round, if you look at the sling mounts which you have on here, they're in the right place, but you can see they're just screwed on, hopefully in see that in the camera. These would be welded in place, not screwed in place. So that's another little detail that isn't quite right about this replica. Also on the other side of the gun, they do have the thought of what should be an oil bottle. Obviously this isn't actually an oil bottle and you can't remove it. That's just a representation of what would be there. Again, something that changed in the M3A1s where they put it in the pistol grip. So at least aesthetically it's got the sort of look that the oil bottle is there. And then you go up to the mag well. If I can get a good shot in the camera, move the sling out. Until I ain't done no footage for a few weeks, can't you? So you got a nice mag well. The button works, as you can see. Drops that out nice and easy. And that's a nice easy clip back in as well. So mostly they've done a good job of all the things that you really need to have in a replica. That's even got nice details, like if I bring this right up to this camera for you, you can see here, fake welds. I think that's a nice little touch that they put on. And the barrel kind of spins, but you can't take it off. So they've kind of give you the function of how they would remove the outer barrel, but not in reality anything that works, which is a bit of a shame, but that doesn't matter. Just bringing it up to the camera for you so you can get a nice look at the trades that they've got on there. They got the nice submachine gun Cal 45 on there, but unfortunately it does have the Denix made in Spain markings as well, which isn't the end of the world. At least that's got some trademarks on it, and at least. So that's just a quick overview of it. You can see I've got a nice reproduction sling here. I only use the grease gun for very late war stuff, so I'll put a very dark OD sling on it. But yeah, really, I suppose there's not a great deal more to say about the Denix grease gun. They aren't overly expensive, especially compared to a real grease gun in the UK anyway. So I recommend picking these up. If you can find a nice paint that would look the part on them, maybe a nice metallic kind of gunmetal grey or a flat grey, I've seen real grease guns with both finishes, then that would really improve this. One thing to be aware of, same with all other grease guns, don't let this get wet. If you let it get wet, that will just go a horrible light grey colour because the metal they're made out of is just rubbish. That along with the colour is its only two real flaws, which is a shame they haven't sorted that out yet, but hopefully they'll get to it one day. But then again, these aren't that expensive. I think the most expensive I've seen them is £270. I think I paid like £150 for mine because I got lucky. But I definitely recommend picking one up. So, the Denix M3 grease gun. Right guys, so hopefully this little quick review I've thrown together for you here helped someone out. I don't want to go into like obnoxious amounts of historical detail about the grease gun in these little Denix reviews because it isn't really relevant. We'll do that when we've got a real grease gun to hand with us and maybe do something more in depth for you, and definitely do a comparison video as well when that happens. But I just want to make something for you and apologise for the lack of content lately. It's been like nearly 3 weeks since I did a video, and for about 2 weeks of that I couldn't access this room or any of my equipment because we had a COVID problem in the household, which meant I was stuck downstairs for nearly 2 weeks. So apologies for that, and generally just a lot of stuff going on. Content may slow down a little bit. I did do a display last weekend and I did take some footage. Unfortunately I'm still very much learning how the camera works and how it likes different lights, and the footage is pretty abysmal. But I did get some photos, so at some point I'll go through the photos and make a nice slight montage for you of some of the display we set up, because we did put a good little display on. So apologies for the lack of content recently. That will keep coming. That's probably going to slow down a bit.